Hi class, this is a video of my research process. I was starting to make an example video for your midterm, and I was going through the process of searching for articles and things like that, and I was like, I kind of think that it would be beneficial for students to see how I go through the research process when I'm looking for research articles. It can be pretty complicated. I mean, most of you have probably done this in several classes and maybe even learned about it and how to do it in several classes. But I don't know if any of you have actually seen someone do it and go through the process, because I know it can get confusing, especially using the library databases. Sometimes you can get access to the full PDF. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes a search result comes up, but you can't actually get to it. And sometimes you can get to it, but it's hard to find how to get to it. So I also use Google Scholar quite a bit, and I'm not sure how familiar some students are with Google Scholar. So I wanted to show that process as well. I am choosing a topic for the Homicide Studies midterm assignment, which is about theories that explain homicide and homicidal behavior. The topic I chose is actually discussed more in chapters 5 on confrontational homicide and chapter 7 on familial homicide, rather than in chapter 4, where I've asked you to take your ideas from. I found particularly interesting the idea of honor killings, or a culture of honor being a cause for homicide. I used to actually provide a documentary called The Price of Honor for chapter 7. So I'm going to start on Google Scholar here. This is a lot of times where I like to start. I should also note that because I'm making this video after I started doing the research for your midterm video example, what I come up with might end up being a little bit different than what you will see in my example video for the midterm. That actually kind of speaks to various interesting ideas about how searches work on the internet. But one of them being that I could Google something and get completely different results than you or someone else might get. So just keep that in mind as I go through this example of how I do research. So I'm going to start with you can see here, I've done this before when I was already doing this. So let's just choose one of these that I already did. So culture of honor and homicide. So this looks like it's a book. So I'm not going to be able to probably get access to that, or it's going to be a little bit more difficult for me to get access to that. So I'm going to skip through that one. Psychocultural mechanisms. This is from 2017. So this might be from a little bit too long ago. However, when I did this research before, I did choose one of the articles that I chose. I tried to find one of the kind of original theory papers on this idea of a culture of honor. And so I think it's from like the 90s or maybe even the 80s. That's the one time that I personally am okay with using a pretty old article, is when it's the original. It's like where a certain idea kind of came into being. But then I like to follow it up with more recent ones, because what often happens, and kind of the nature of science, is that a theory comes up and then it evolves, because after it gets tested in various different ways, the theory is going to change and evolve. And that's how we find out the truth, or get closer to the truth. The culture of homicide was from 2014. It's not terribly recent. I'd like to try to be within the last 10 years. But let's go ahead and click on this one, because one of the things you'll notice on Google Scholar is if you look on the far right-hand side here, you'll see links to full PDFs of some articles. So let's go ahead. I often like to do a right click and open a new tab, just because I like to keep this original tab open. So let's go over here. And of course, there's going to be a verification. Oh, and it just is downloading the PDF for me. So, okay. So if you see something that looks like this, the reason, let me keep scrolling through. This looks like, you notice how it looks like it's written like your papers look like when they're written, like it's written like in a Word document, and it doesn't like have the same structure as you often see when you get an article downloaded. That's because this was either uploaded directly by this author here, maybe on their LinkedIn website or something like that, or it might be something that hasn't fully been published yet, or sometimes even you'll get results that are off the author's like dissertation for their doctoral degree or something like that. Let me go back to Google Scholar and let's take a look at some other things for this. It does say it was published in the Journal of European Economic Association. That's kind of another thing for me that I'm like, I don't know if the European Economic Association is really often publishing articles on homicide and violence. So maybe this isn't the best journal to use for a criminal justice class. Another place you can find that is you can see these links down here. This site link actually gives you a super handy, not always totally accurate, but if you see APA style here, this is the citation for this article formatted for you in APA style. So that's just kind of a handy thing. The other thing that I love, I might actually choose a different article to do this with. So let me just keep going because I don't love that article. And actually that means I'm going to probably just get rid of it. So I have a tendency to start having tabs pile up sometimes. So I want to try to make sure to delete things that I'm kind of decided against. So culture of honor and violence against the self, that's something that just interests me personally, being interested in this idea of the culture of honor and things like that. However, violence against the self it isn't really pertinent for this class because it's a homicide studies class. Manhood in cultures of honor and spousal homicide. This is in the Encyclopedia of Domestic Violence. Being that this is an encyclopedia, that tells me that this might not have been peer reviewed. Usually in an encyclopedia, if you're of the age like I am to remember actual encyclopedias back in the day, they were just meant to give you an overview of things, kind of basically like Wikipedia, right? Although old school encyclopedias were, not written by everyone and anyone and couldn't be changed at any time like Wikipedia can. But encyclopedias are usually meant to be kind of an overview of a particular concept. So this might be a decent place to start, but I'm gonna keep going here. Okay, so this has given me quite a few results. This is the thing with Google Scholar, you're probably going to get a lot more results than you're going to get with the MetroState databases. But that means there's also a lot more to sift through, so it can be a little trickier. I'm going to go back and see if I can find, what did I find when I just did culture of honor? There's that article again about violence against the self. This probably, it could be interesting, but again, it doesn't seem to be dealing with homicide. Okay, just from my previous research, I know that this Southern culture of honor theory was originally authored by Cohen and Nisbet, these authors here. And, it's from 1996, so this might be one of their more, and it looks like I've clicked on it before. So why don't we go and click on it again? Oh, and I didn't right click, but we'll go back. So I think I might actually already have this one downloaded. This looks like it's probably an early test of their theory. You'll notice that it's University of Michigan students. A lot of research, particularly early research on different theories, is done with students at a university. Because it looks like Richard Nisbet is at the University of Michigan, so he's just doing a survey or doing, getting information from his own students as what we would call a convenience sample. But one of the things I do want to show you about this, because it's, I happen to know that it's, the authors that kind of came up with this idea, or one of the authors that came up with this idea, Another interesting thing you'll find maybe as you go look into these kinds of things or start to learn more about theories, a lot of times theories can originate from multiple different people and multiple different angles. But this is a good illustration, I think, of one of the other reasons I love Google Scholar. So because this was published in 1996, it's pretty old. But because it was also kind of the original authors of the theory, it's probably been cited a lot. And you can see this cited by, it has been cited a lot. And then what this cited by will also give you is it gives you a list of all articles that have cited this article. So I like to call it kind of looking forward in time. Another way that you maybe have heard of before in terms of finding articles that align with your topic is to look through the references of an article you've already found. I kind of think of that as looking back in time because, of course, all of the articles that are listed in a reference page are going to be older than the current published article you're looking at. So on Google Scholar, you can kind of look forward in time. So I'm going to see if I can find. Here we go. I think this is the original. This is their original theory article here. So self-protection and the culture of honor, explaining Southern violence. So we're going to click on this cited by. I'm going to right click this time just to make it easier on myself. So here I've opened up articles that have cited this original theory article. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to search within these articles. So if I check this box here, I can then search within these articles for homicide. This one is great. This is one of the things that really additionally piqued my interest when I was researching this theory is Cuban and Weitzer are scholars I'm familiar with, theoretical scholars I'm familiar with, concentrated disadvantage and neighborhood culture. One of the articles that I wanted to include in my midterm video example was actually comparing this idea of the culture of violence in Southern white men. That's what this original theory was kind of geared around or geared towards, but it compares this theory with the Code of the Streets theory, which is a theory from Elijah Anderson that you may have learned about if you've taken Intro to Criminology. But that's a little bit older. Let me see here. Okay, so it's still quite a few results. So I'm actually going to say since 2022. So this is an article that I believe I tracked down. And you can see it doesn't have a link over here to find the PDF. So I'm going to show you how I tracked down this article. So again, you can see here what journal it was in. I'm just going to pull this up just to make it even easier to see the full title of the journal. It's the International Journal of Law, Crime, and Justice. And I'm going to show you how to go through our Metro State Library database to see if we have access to that journal, and maybe we can track down a full PDF copy of it. Once you're on the library homepage, you can scroll down a little bit, and list of journals is what you want to click on. And once that all comes up, I'm just going to go back, remind myself, it's the International Journal of Law, Crime, and Justice. So I'm going to start typing that here. There it is, International Journal of Law, Crime, and Justice. So I'm going to click on that. So we have access to it from 2008 until now. So I'm going to click on that. Now you have to do a little bit of digging. Oh, and I have to sign on. All right, so now you have to do a little bit of digging through the journal. And this is where it gets a little confusing because it looks different for different journals and how you got to do some digging and some looking around. So so maybe just the menu here, articles, all issues. There we go. That's what I want to go to. So all issues. And so now I want to go back to my citation and find out it was from 2005. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to find 2025. And I'm going to start with the first volume in 2025. And I'm just going to scroll through and I'm going to look for, what's the title? The title is Honor-Based Violence. So I'm just going to kind of scroll through and look for the word honor as the first word in the article. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy. All right, so next volume. It wasn't in that one. It wasn't in that one either. Sometimes you can see journal volumes have certain themes. So you're starting to see here that there's this journal volume is starting to look at honor-based violence and things like that. So this is another way to just kind of scroll through and see, hey, do any of these articles seem to fit with what I'm looking for? But I don't see our original article that we were looking for here. So I'm going to go to the next volume. This is the final volume, December 2025. So I'm going to scroll through here. Interesting. We didn't see it here. What might have happened here is that this article was published in 2025, but it was published online in 2025. And so what we're looking for through here is the physical, the fully published journal volumes. But if that's the case, we could just go to the next volume and we should see it, even though now we're in 2026, we should find it soon here. Ah, here it is. Honor-based violence and intimate partner homicides in Portugal. And I always double check. Matos is the author, the first author, Matos. Okay, so perfect. This is the one we were looking for. And we have access to the full PDF. So I can click on View PDF. All right, verify that I am human. And there we go. Now I have access to the full PDF of this article. So this might be an article that I would like to save, and I believe I did. I don't know if I'll end up using it in my final video example, but this is definitely one that I came across in my previous research. So I'm going to kind of leave this tab open, and then it opens all these other tabs. So I'm going to close all those other tabs just again to try to, for my own benefit, to try to keep things clean up there. So I'm going to close out of that. I found that. I kind of liked it. Let's see. Ah, this is interesting. Why is the murder rate higher in the South than in other parts of the United States? Southern subculture of violence or legacy of slavery. That's very interesting. I'm going to see if we can find it. Again, it's not over here. So let's see if we have access to the Criminal Justice Review. Again, I'm going to pull up the site here just so it's easy for us to see everything. Criminal Justice Review. Back to the library homepage. Go back to the list of journals. And now, again, we're looking for Criminal Justice Review. Aha, there it is. We do have access to it. And what year is it we're looking for? So it's the Criminal Justice Review from 2024, but it looks like it's issue 49, volume 3. So let's see if that holds up and is accurate. All right, we have access to this from 1999, so that's perfect. All right, so let's go to 2024. And again, it is issue 49, volume 3. Volume 49, issue 3. So it's this one here. All right, and what's the title of it? What are we looking for? Why is the murder rate higher in the South by Glenn Walters? Why is the murder rate higher in the South by Glenn Walters? All right, so lots of different things you can click on here. right here, it shows that it's a PDF or EPUB. So I'm going to click on that and it should open. Here we go. It's opening us a PDF online. And there it is. There's your full article. I'm going to scroll through here to see if this is an actual study, subcultural theories. This might be a good one to really get some background information on these subcultural theories of crime, Southern subculture of violence. There's this Nisbet and Cohen. There again, those were kind of the original authors of this specific theory about Southern cultures of violence. Okay, so it looks like the dependent variable in the study was the homicide death rate for each state organized into a total score, a black murder victim score, and a white murder victim score. Okay, so this is interesting. So essentially, he seems to just be testing the idea that Southern states have higher rates of homicide and how those homicides break down along racial lines, particularly black and white racial lines. So this could be a very interesting article to use. And it looks like he did really look at, this is an actual study where he looked at how those rates compare. I'm going to scroll down. I always skip all of these math sections in an article. And I always jump right to the discussion here. All right, so I'm going to keep this open. I think that could be an interesting article to use. I'm going to go ahead and close that, keep that open. I'm going to also keep this journals open because I'll probably use it again. So now I'm back to this Google Scholar page where I'm looking within that Cohen and Nesbitt article and people that cited that Cohen and Nesbitt article, and then searching within those results specifically for homicide. So that's the page that I'm on here. Ah, here's that article I was just talking about. I'm going to go ahead and click on it and open it up here so you can see at least the abstract. I thought this was a really interesting sounding article, and I was so bummed that we don't have access to it. But I'm going to show you what that looks like when I went down that road, and you can experience the disappointment with me. All right, so we'll do the same thing again, where I look at the APA citation, and it is in the Du Bois Review, Social Science Research on Race. That's the name of the journal. So I'm going to go to the journals here, and close that out, and just start typing Du Bois. Yep, see, this is all we have for Du Bois. Just out of curiosity, what was that subtitle? I'm not ready to give up. Social Science Research on Race. Let's see if maybe we have it under that. No, we do not. So that is super bummer. But what we could maybe try to do is follow that cited by. Well, looks like I've tried this, but we'll try it again just to show you what the path I went down here. So again, so there's only 10 results, so I don't need to really search within results. We're just going to look through all of them here. This could be potentially interesting. It looks like I clicked on this one. I think particularly because it is Cohen. I assume that's probably the Cohen, one of the original authors of the theory. So this is one that I went down, but it's one that has links that I've already shown you kind of how to access. So let's keep going here, see if we can find anything else. All right, so that was the end of what they had there. So let's see. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Regional culture and patterns of homicide. This could be interesting. However, it's from 2003, so it's a little bit older, but it's in Homicide Studies, which I happen to know is a pretty good journal. So maybe we'll take a look at this one and cross our fingers. I think we have access to the Homicide Studies journal, but let's find out. Yes, we do. All right, so let's pull this up. Let's see, regional culture and patterns of homicide studies, volume 7, issue 4 from 2003. From 1999, so we should have it. All right, we're going back to the 2000s here, going to 2003. Did I say volume? What did I say? Volume 7, issue 4. Volume 7, issue 4. And we are looking for regional culture and patterns of homicide. There it is. And again, we can just click here and that should pull up the article for us. So it's interesting that Cohen, one of the original authors, attempted to do a study of Nisbet and Cohen's theory. And in Cohen's article, they were able to find support for their theory. However, in this article, they tried to replicate it. This article does not find support in the same way that Cohen was claiming support for the theory. Doesn't necessarily mean that this theory is not true or there's not a truth to it or they're not something like that. It's just showing that in the way that they went about trying to prove the theory did not really show support in the way that Cohen originally presented that it did. This is one of the reasons I really like what are called meta-analyses or systematic reviews. Those are articles you'll find where they look either just kind of qualitatively, they look at the body of literature, so all of the articles and studies that have been done on a certain topic, and kind of read through them and try to make some summaries, some generalizations about what's happening in the literature as a whole. Or with a meta-analysis, they actually use statistical processes that I quite frankly don't fully understand to come to a conclusion about what the body of the literature is saying about a certain idea. But this is another way that you can see that someone that wanted to show a certain side of things could very easily only present one side of things. So again, keep that in mind whenever you're researching things. I've shown you a lot of different things and a lot of different ways that I personally like to do my research. So hopefully this is helpful. I will spend hours and hours on researching these kinds of things and take breaks here and there. You'll see I have this PDF down here of this Word document down here of notes that I've taken and some of the research that I've done. I don't want to have this be an hours long video for you. I just wanted to show you some different ideas and how I go about tracking down information, and also ways that I end up being disappointed when I don't have access to something like this gem right here. I want to insert one more thing here. This really great article, The Cultural Ecology of Gun Violence, Culture of Honor and Code of the Street, that I really, really love, there's a chance we could get it through what's called interlibrary loan. So I'm going to show you how to go through that step. And actually, I'm going to click on this cite button here so that it brings up the full citation for me, because I'm going to need a lot of this information when I go to fill out the interlibrary loan form. So I'm going to go to the library's homepage. And if I scroll down, you'll see this interlibrary loan button. I'll click that. It tells us about the process. Submit your request. Use this request form. Click on that. Log in with my star ID. And then you want to change this to article. And so article title, I'm going to go back over here, the article title. I'm just going to copy it and paste it right there. And then the journal title is this, Du Bois Review, Social Science Research on Race. So I'm going to copy that and paste that right there. Those are the two super required things, but the more information you give them for the interlibrary loan, the easier they're going to be able to find it and verify it's the one you're looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and fill in as much as I can here. So author is A.L. Whaley. Since it has a DOI here, I'm just going to copy this. Oops. I'm just going to copy this and input the DOI. I don't know what DOI stands for, but it's kind of like an IP address for an article. So this DOI is going to be particularly important to help them track it down and verify it. So because I have the DOI, I'm going to go ahead and skip all the rest of this. And scrolling down, here's my email address. Comment, I don't need to make a comment. Copyright, I must acknowledge this. I'm going to acknowledge this copyright issue. Pickup location. Go ahead and say Metro State Library, St. Paul. Hopefully this will send it electronically if it's available. So I'm going to click send request. Okay, my request was successfully placed. And I got it through interlibrary loan. So I got an email with information on how to access that amazing article. So it says it will be available for 30 days. Use your star ID and password, click here. And there, it just automatically downloads. Looks like a really good overview. This comparison with family and community support. So it looks like this isn't an actual study, but it's a good overview of what I'm looking for in kind of comparing the two theories and their similarities. So yeah, I will probably be using this in my video midterm example. So I hope this was helpful for you, and good luck with any research you're doing for any of your classes.